Welcome back to the show and welcome back to part 3 of the Body Obsession series, where I am teaching you step by step how to release your old self, step into a new identity, and step into your dream body easily and effortlessly. Okay? If you have not already listened to part 1 and 2, I highly recommend going back and listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or watching on YouTube, because they go in sequential order and you might not fully understand this one without listening or watching the other ones first. So go watch those first. Today we're talking about how to release your old self. So again, you should have already listened or watched part 1 and 2, where we talked about how to love your body right now while you're on your journey, self-love, all of that good stuff. And then you've already created your new identity. And this next step is releasing your old self. So often people skip this step. And when you skip this step, it's almost like you're trying to move forward and you're trying to walk, but you have these cinder blocks holding you back. And so often when we don't allow ourselves to release our old self, that's when we have this like ego versus higher self just like fighting against each other, trying to pull. Like half of you is trying to really step into this new version of yourself, have your dream body, all the things, have healthier habits. And this old version of you is like, no, come on, let's stay comfortable. And so when you release your old self, you are just able to freaking fly and everything happens so much faster. And there's a few ways that you can actually release your old self. But today we're going to talk about a technique that is going to get you to release your old self literally 100 times faster, because there are some ways to release your old self, but it takes months, sometimes years. And I don't know about you, but I don't have the patience for that, okay? When I learned this technique, my mind was freaking blown. I was like, wow, I've been trying these other techniques for so freaking long. And if I would have just tried this, I probably would have been in a new identity years and years ago, okay? And like I said, I've tried all of the things. I've tried all the techniques, and this is the one that is going to get you there as fast as freaking possible and release your old self as quickly as possible. So we're going to talk about what that technique is, and then we're going to go into some journaling prompts to figure out what your current beliefs about your body are, because there's no way to actually release your old self and release these old beliefs if you don't even know what you currently believe. So we're going to do some journal prompts to figure that out, and then we're going to talk about what happens next. Once you figure out what these beliefs are, how do we actually clear them and release them and move forward? Let's get into the show. Welcome to Holistic Health is Hot, where your journey to sculpting your dream body meets holistic health. I'm your host, Ashley Roberts. Here, we're going to chat about mindset hacks that have completely transformed my life and dive deep into nutrition and movement that will help transform yours. We're going to get into the intense connection between mind, body, and soul so you can glow from the inside out. Let's get into it. And remember, holistic health is hot. Before we get into what this actual technique is, I just want to share with you a couple of ways it drastically improved my life recently. Because I've known about this technique for a long time, but it wasn't until recently that I started doing it on myself, probably like a couple months ago, and with my one-to-one clients, where people are seeing overnight changes. So before we get into the technique, I'm going to share with you a couple of instances where I used this on a limiting belief and a fear that I had that was able to help me move forward in my life. Because I want to convince you to continue listening to this episode so you know exactly why this is so important and how freaking life-changing this technique actually is. To start off, I'm going to talk about a body one and then a non-body one. Just again, to give you some more context, but the body one that I recently cleared. So I've been in a good place with my body for a long time, but I wanted to, again, practice these techniques on myself to further help my clients. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to clear a belief that like I thought I didn't have anymore, but whoa, I was wrong. Okay. So I've always had this thing where I've always been self-conscious of my legs. I'm always like, oh, like I was a soccer player, I was a dancer, like I have big muscular legs and that's just who I am. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to clear this belief. Using this technique, I cleared the limiting belief of I just have big legs. That's just my genetics. That's just what I look like. That's just who I am. And I shit you not, the next day, for some reason, I looked in the mirror and I was like, oh my God, my legs look so thin. What the heck? And then I remembered that I cleared the belief the day before. Because again, our mind is so freaking powerful. Body dysmorphia is a real thing. And I think for years and years and years, I've been living with this belief that I have big legs. And it's like, again, it might not be, you might be like, Ashley, you're crazy. And I've had people be like, I'm obsessed with your legs. And I still, because even though people said that to me, I still didn't truly believe it. I'm like, you're just saying that, okay? I didn't truly believe it because my belief was that I did have big legs, okay? I'm going to show you an even crazier example now too. Not to get too deep, but I've always had this thing with boyfriends where I just have this fear that they're going to leave me. Don't know why or where it came from because, you know, my parents are divorced, because a lot of times like these beliefs, they come from childhood. And so I was thinking back, I'm like, where did this come from? You know, why do I have this feeling? Because I've got a lot of parents. I don't know if I've explained this, but I've got, you know, mom and dad, obviously, but I've got a stepdad who's been in my life for almost my whole life. I have a stepmom. My dad has a new wife. Like I've got a lot of parental figures that are always there for me at the drop of a hat, you know? So I always was confused where this abandonment issues came from. And I did this technique and I went back, found the root cause of where this was actually coming from so I could clear this belief. And so Eric, my boyfriend, the most amazing boyfriend, I manifested the shit out of him. He's literally perfect to a T. And even still, sometimes when he would go hang out with his friends, and this most recent time, he went golfing with his friends. Previously, before I cleared this belief, I just had this anxious feeling of like, oh my gosh, what if he just doesn't come back? And it, like, consciously, I was like, this is so dumb. Why am I feeling this way? Like, we've been together for over 2 years now, and we're like so solid. We're amazing partners. Why am I feeling this way? It's so frustrating to me. Like, I'm checking his location to make sure he's okay. I called him, he didn't answer. And so I was like kind of panicking in my head. I could never fall asleep when he was like out with his friends. Like, I was just a mess whenever he would not be here. And it was frustrating to me because I'm like, hello, I'm my own person. What the heck? What's going on here? I know I'm fine. I know he's going to come home. I know he's safe. So I cleared the fear of abandonment. And I didn't even put this together until last week. He went golfing with his friends. And I, again, love him. But I did not think about him at all. Like, I was like focusing on watching Pretty Little Liars, eating some popcorn. Like, I was in my own head. He wasn't texting me back and I didn't care. I even was able to fall asleep. And typically I'm like making sure he's like okay, making sure he's like on the road. Like, I felt honestly crazy. And the second I cleared this fear of abandonment, I went back to the root cause of the first time I felt this feeling was, and cleared it, released it, and oh my God. It wasn't even like I have to clear it and then I have to do all these things. It was like, no, it literally just was gone. My fear of abandonment is just gone. I'm like, I'm good. I don't need you. I'm just kidding. I want him. I don't need him because I'm my own independent person. But this technique is freaking life-changing. And now I'll tell you what the actual technique is, okay? So this is called neuro-linguistic programming. And essentially what NLP is, because I don't want to say that whole word, NLP, is you find the root cause of where that belief is. And typically this happens when your subconscious mind is most open, because ages 0 to 7, you're 100% subconscious mind. This can even happen, you can even go back to when you were in the womb or past generations or past lives, okay? And before you're like, Ashley, you're freaking crazy, just hear me out, okay? A lot of times when we go back to find the root cause, it might not make sense to you, but somewhere in our subconscious mind, we have these memories stored. There's so many books and studies on trauma staying in your body for up to 7 generations, okay? So before you're like, Ashley, this is too woo-woo, there's actual scientific evidence that trauma is stored in your body for up to 7 generations, okay? So this actually makes so much sense. And again, ages 0 to 7, you're all subconscious mind. You don't have a conscious mind until after you're 7. So what you do is essentially, it's kind of like a guided meditation where I take you back, and again, I do this with my one-to-one clients, and you go all the way back and you find the root cause of when you initially felt that feeling. And it might not make sense at all. Like, I've had kind of like these visions of when I'm in the womb, when my mom was a kid, stuff with even when my grandma was a kid. Did it actually happen? No freaking idea. But that's not the point. You use your subconscious mind to go back to when you first felt this feeling, and you essentially figure out what you need to learn from it, and you rewrite the story in your subconscious mind, okay? So then You can let go of that belief. And this is not one of those things that's like, okay, you got to do this. And then you have to do like a 30-minute meditation. And then you have to journal on it. And then you have to do and it's like, no. It literally is like you do this NLP practice one time and that belief is gone. And again, don't get me wrong. There's always going to be these beliefs that come up and but come up after, because it's like a new level unlocked, okay? And so I have been clearing everything left and right, and I can't even describe to you how different of a human that I feel. And that's why I'm like, okay, I need to share this with the freaking world because it is so crazy. And so many women hold themselves back because they have these beliefs, and a lot of them aren't even their own. Like, I've cleared some beliefs and I got back to the root cause of what that belief was, and it was something that happened with my grandma when she was a child. Again, is this real? Probably. Will I ever know? No, but it works. The clearing works. When you figure out the root cause of this belief, you can clear it. And so often, it's not even our own belief, okay? Like, I think for so long, I was always confused. Why am I so sensitive? Not that it's a bad thing, but I'm like, why do I have all these just pent up beliefs in myself? Why can I not step into this next version of myself? Like, what is my body trying to tell me? And a lot of times, again, my childhood was amazing, but I have a lot of trauma that I have to work through. And it's not necessarily because my childhood was bad, because it wasn't. It was amazing. I have loving parents, lots of them. And I was always confused, but a lot of times it's because we have all these stored beliefs from past generations, not even necessarily from ages, our own childhood. It's like from previous childhoods that's literally stored in your brain and in your body. I hope this is making sense, because I know that this can feel woo-woo, but it's not woo-woo. It is so real, and there's so much evidence to show this. And I don't know if you're familiar with EMDR. It's a therapy technique that helps you make a traumatic event less traumatic for yourself. And honestly, the same outcome happens from NLP and EMDR, but EMDR is so much more traumatic. It's so much harder because you have to relive the traumatic event over and over and over again, and you kind of relive it enough to feel okay about it. And honestly, reliving something traumatic like that is really hard. And I'm not going to say that NLP is easy peasy. Doesn't matter. Depends on how traumatic of the event was when that first belief was created. And I've cried, but it's a 10-minute thing rather than I've done a full hour-long session of EMDR, and it is traumatizing, and you literally have to relive the whole thing, and your body doesn't know the difference between real and imagined, which is why trauma is stored in the body. Because a lot of times when similar things happen, or we have a fear of something or a belief about something, it's not in the moment that's causing your body to freeze up. It's what has been stored in your body from past traumatic experiences. And so that's why you're like, why does starting a fitness journey feel so scary to me? Maybe something in your past happened, or not even your past, but a past where something traumatic happened. And so it's triggering this traumatic response in your body that doesn't line up with the scary part of it. I use this example all the time, but our body doesn't know the difference between being chased by stress from work and stress from being chased by a bear. It's the same thing. And so again, these traumatic responses are so real to your body, but it doesn't know the difference between real and imagined. Now that you understand what this technique is, let's go into kind of the step-by-step process behind, if you were a client and if you worked with me, step-by-step what we would do after that, okay? So again, we've got the technique. Great. All fine and dandy. How do we use this to get to our dream body? First off, you need to figure out what your current beliefs are about your body, about food, about losing weight, anything, or even self-love, worthiness. You have to figure out what your true beliefs are, okay? So I'm just going to give you some journal prompts to kind of start imagining, because like I said, ages 0 to 7 is when your subconscious mind was open. So anything someone said to you, your subconscious mind was like, yep, check, got it. You know how everybody says, oh, little kids are like sponges? They literally are. Anything you say to them or they hear is being absorbed in their subconscious, which means it's just a routine thing. So if you are, maybe let's say your mom after giving birth was trying to lose weight, and she was really struggling, and she would tell herself, oh, I hate my body, I hate myself. Even though you're 1 year old, You are getting that in your subconscious mind. Because again, you don't have a conscious mind. You can't consciously be like, oh, you know what, mom, you're wrong, you know? You don't have an opinion yet. You're just absorbing everything that goes into your brain. So that's why we have to go to your subconscious mind to release these, okay? But anyways, again, you are like a sponge. Even when you're in the womb, you get stuff in your brain. It's freaking crazy. And you don't have to believe me. That's fine. But it's true and it's real. So let's go through a couple journal prompts so you can figure out what your beliefs actually are. And you got to be real with yourself, okay? Not to get dark, but when I didn't have the body I wanted, I hated myself. I thought that I was always going to be fat. I thought I just had to starve myself to have the body that I wanted. I thought that I wasn't worthy. I thought that when I would lose weight, that I would be pretty. I thought I was ugly. I thought no one would want to talk to me because I was fat. Like, I know these are harsh, but like, that's truly what I thought. And it's important that you be real with yourself while you're going through these journaling prompts. And it's hard. This is not easy work, okay? But once we can figure out the beliefs, then we can get to the root cause and freaking let that shit go. Release it, okay? So why I was saying the childhood portion is because a lot of times, like, our parents are always doing the best that they can. But a lot of times, things that your parents said or how your parents felt, how your parents acted, we absorb all of those. That's just how it is. That's just how it goes. What were the messages you received about your body as you were growing up? And this could be, you know, things that your parents said to you, things that other people made comments about, things that you were thinking to yourself. What specific comments or attitudes or beliefs did you have around your body growing up? And how did these messages make you feel about your body growing up? I think too, I'm a millennial, so I'm almost 30. Well, it sounds crazy to say. But a lot of times, we grew up in this time period where it was like the stick, thin, skinny models were like the ideal body shape. It was like, eat as little as possible, no fat, no carbs. That's what we were brought up as to have our dream body, is that's what we had to do. So for me, that's what my belief was. Even if, you know, my mom was always healthy. Actually, you know, one thing I do remember, I remember my mom was hesitant about me going into dance because she was afraid that I was going to have, not afraid, but just didn't want me to have any weird eating stuff, which, you know, is ironic because I did anyways, but it wasn't until college. But when I first started dance, like in junior high, she was worried that I was going to have some body image and issues or anything like that. So she was like, if you start to have these things, like, I'm going to pull you out, which again, I never really did in high school. This was later on. So again, like, anything that you can remember coming up for you, I just want you to journal on it so you can figure out what your beliefs truly are right now. Okay, next question. What did your parents or caregivers believe about health, fitness, body, weight loss, self-love? Did they emphasize certain body types or appearances? Because even sometimes, you know, let's just say you had a babysitter who she wanted to lose weight and she was just talking to a friend on the phone and she's like, oh, like, I just want to lose weight. I just want to look like the supermodel. You absorb that information so easily, okay? So anything that comes to mind, even if you're like, I don't even know if this makes sense or if I just made this up, write it down because your brain is bringing it to you for a reason. How did your family talk about food or eating? You know, a lot of times people have this, you need to finish your whole plate. That's like a lot of, I feel like parents, our generation's parents, like, you got to finish the food on your plate. And again, even this goes back to the Great Depression. And so they probably, you know, food was scarce. You had to make sure if you had the money to buy food, you had to eat all of your food on your plate. Okay. So again, these beliefs just travel from generation to generation. So were there any rules and restrictions about food? What beliefs about food did you inherit from your caregivers or your parents or babysitters, anything of that sort, or even like friends' parents, anything that you can think about. And this doesn't just have to be from ages 0 to 7 because consciously you're probably not going to be able to think about those until you do an NLP session, but anything that you can remember. Okay, what was your experience with body image while you were growing up? Was it talked about? You know, I even remember a big thing I remember in like 7th grade, maybe like 6th grade too, was just, you know, I was a rule follower, okay? I remember my best friend Melanie in high school, like, she was such a rule breaker. She would go to school our parents were like very strict on what we wore. They were like, no strapless, no spaghetti straps. You have to wear sleeves. And so Melanie, like the rule breaker she would like change at school. Like she would wear whatever and then she would go and change into like a spaghetti strap at school. So again, like this is something that I remember. Also in 7th grade, first 7th grade dance, I was a devil for like a Halloween dance or something, and it was like the very first dance, and I was already scared of everything at that point, and I got dress coded. Even my mom let me wear this strapless like devil Halloween costume, or maybe it was one strapped or something, and I got there, and one of like the yard duty people was like, hey, sorry, like you can't wear this, like you have to go home. And so I literally got dress coded, and I was like the biggest rule follower, and so I was just like mortified. Okay, and again, like this is something that might not necessarily directly make sense to how you feel about your body, but for me, I felt like I was like shamed on wow, therapy session coming in hot, forgot about this. I was shamed with what I was wearing. And so that creates all these fears around maybe how I feel about myself. Maybe I felt like I was an outsider. Maybe I felt like I was trying to do the right thing and I wasn't. And so again, write everything down, even if it doesn't make sense as to how this could connect. What do you currently believe about food and its role in your life? How do you use food as comfort? Do you look at it as fuel? Do you look at it as the thing stopping you from getting you to where you want your body to be? Anything that comes up around food. What are some of the earliest memories about food? Did your parents or caregivers or babysitter or anything kind of say, this is a healthy food, this is a good food, this is a bad food? Anything that's coming up for you, write it down. Now I want to talk about some beliefs about your body, okay? So how do you currently feel about your body? What word comes to mind when you think about your body? How do these thoughts influence your day-to-day actions, your self-care, your workouts, how you feel day to day? How you feel about yourself? What are the beliefs you hold about what your body should look like? How do you talk to yourself about your body? How does your self-talk affect your body image, your confidence? What do you believe needs to happen for you to have your dream body? Is there a specific weight, size, appearance that you think is going to bring you this happiness? I know this is a lot of journaling and a lot of things can come up for you. And I just want you to sit in those feelings. And I know they're hard and I know it sucks, but it's so important to figure out what your current beliefs are so we can get rid of that shit, clear those beliefs, okay? Even for me, oh my gosh. I wish I could give my younger self a hug. College Ashley was so self-conscious about her body. I would look in the mirror and say horrible things to myself. Horrible, horrible, horrible things to myself. And I would starve myself. I would not eat for as long as possible. I then would binge later on after drinking and a night out. There was this Mexican restaurant called Serrano's, shouts out. I literally ate a burrito with a hot dog once. Anyways, I would stuff my face. And I was always embarrassed too, because I was that girl who I would like starve myself during the day and then I would get drunk, and coming home, I would eat everyone else's food. And like, obviously I was drunk and not purposely trying to do that, but everyone would get mad at me. So it was like I created this belief that people get mad at me when I eat food. And I know that's like so illogical and doesn't even consciously make sense, but like that's truly this belief that I had formed, is when I eat food, people will get mad at me, because I did it so often. And that truly is like, I don't even know if I've ever shared that before, because maybe I still got some stuff to work on about it, but I was so mortified. Especially coming from someone who already didn't want to eat food in the first place, and then I would get drunk and eat everybody else's, and then I'd have to like buy them groceries or pay them back or whatever. It was just a whole mortifying experience for me. So again, anything that comes to mind, write down all these beliefs. Okay, so now once you have all these beliefs, and this is something, again, we have to clear each belief one by one. So with each belief, and some of them you might be able to kind of like clump together or put them in categories or stuff like that, whatever makes sense to you. But once we know the beliefs, then we have to find the hidden advantage. Our brain is always trying to keep us safe. Our animalistic reptilian brain is trying to keep us safe. And a lot of times it might not make sense to us why there actually is this hidden advantage, but we need to gain clarity on why our brain thinks it's safer to hold on to this feeling or belief or emotion than let it go. Okay? I'm going to take you through the next step, and then I'm going to go through some examples. After you find the hidden advantage, then you're going to figure out what the consequence of holding on to this belief is, okay? If you choose to hold on to this belief forever, what are the negative consequences of holding on to that belief? And again, our brain's always trying to keep us safe. So we need to explain to our brain, look, it's actually safer for us to let go of this belief than it is for us to hold on to it. Let's go through some examples of this, okay? Like I said, I cleared the my legs are big belief that I had. My legs are always just going to be big is the limiting belief. What is the hidden advantage of holding on to this belief? When I just got back from college freshman year, I had a friend, quote unquote, tell Ash the camera adds 10 pounds, like insinuating that I was fat. And so I think I held on to this belief because if somebody calls me fat or calls my legs big, they can't hurt me because I already know and I already have that belief. Again, I know consciously you're like, what? Why would you hold on to that? That doesn't make any sense. It only has to make sense to you, okay? And the consequence of me holding on to this belief of my legs are just big and they always will be is I'm just going to stay stuck. I'm just going to constantly self-sabotage. I'm going to continue to think negatively of myself. I'm going to set this limit on myself of that my legs always need to be big. I have an excuse to not have full confidence in myself, okay? All of this limiting belief, hidden advantage, consequence doesn't have to make sense to anybody else except you. You have to explain to your brain and make sense of, why I'm holding on to this belief, okay? So let's go through a couple more examples. And I'm not saying that these are what I'm personally going through, but these are some examples that I've seen a lot and could potentially be you. Limiting belief, I'm naturally unfit and will always struggle with working out. The hidden advantage is believing that I am naturally unfit gives me an excuse not to push myself in workouts or even a fitness routine. It allows me to avoid discomfort, discipline, or even just challenging yourself, okay? The consequences of holding on to this belief, missing out on physical activity and the mental benefits of regular exercise. Again, that self-sabotage, maybe staying consistent for a week or two, and then falling off. Reinforcing negative self-image. Staying in this constant cycle of inactivity and feeling sluggish. Have to make it make sense to you. Let's go to another one. I'm not attractive unless I'm a certain weight. This belief keeps me focused on a specific goal, aka the perfect weight, which feels like it gives me control. It also justifies my current self-esteem, meaning I don't have to challenge my thoughts or perspectives. The consequences of holding on to this belief, you're going to be constantly unhappy and dissatisfied. You're going to continue to live in this belief that once I hit my goal weight, then I'll be happy, then I'll have confidence, all the things. The consequences also, you can engage in super restrictive diets and super unhealthy weight loss methods. Limiting belief, healthy eating is boring and restrictive. The hidden advantage of this is you get to stick to your comfort foods. You get to have this belief that you get to still have your comfort foods and avoid the change, because again, our brain's always trying to keep us safe. You're avoiding the change of trying something new, trying to eat healthier, trying to change your eating habits. It also gives you the permission to just indulge and overeat and binge eat whenever you want by holding on to this belief. The consequences of holding on to this belief is you're actually not allowing yourself to find healthy foods that actually taste good to you. Another consequence, you lose out on the feeling of craving healthy foods and feeling so freaking good because of that. Another consequence, staying stuck, self-sabotaging. And that could probably be one for everything. It's just the constant self-sabotage. This is another one that I actually struggled with a lot in college. And it was, I'm the bigger friend. I'm always the bigger friend. Like, I just thought I was the fat friend and I'll never be fit like the people around me. This belief gave me an identity, even though it was negative, it gave me an identity of safe and comfortable. It kept me safe by not wanting to change. And again, even though change a lot of times is beneficial, it's still new and different and our brain's trying to keep us safe. And so change equals scary. Putting yourself out there to go to the gym and not see any changes is another hidden advantage. The consequence of holding on to this belief is, again, staying stuck, self-sabotaging, staying in the same physical condition your whole entire life, not being able to have confidence. Limiting belief, hidden advantage, consequence. It has to make sense to you. It doesn't have to make sense to anybody else, and you don't have to share this with anyone, okay? Figuring out your beliefs so you can release them is so freaking important. Okay. So now what would happen after we kind of go through these prompts to figure out, we would clear the limiting belief one by one if you worked one-to-one with me. Since NLP is kind of like a meditation, I'm not going to be able to do it live with you right now, but there is something very, very exciting coming up where you will be able to clear all limiting beliefs, okay? That's just like a little hint. and become obsessed with your body. Feel full self-love for yourself, releasing your old self, creating a new identity so you can easily and effortlessly step into your dream body in 90 days. 90 freaking days. You will be shocked at how easy it is for you to show up for yourself when you get rid of these limiting beliefs and release your old self. It's so freaking crazy, okay? So once we have all the beliefs, then we clear them using NLP. And literally each limiting belief clearing takes 10 minutes. 10 freaking minutes, and you are good, clear, done forever, okay? And you will have an option to be able to check this out, be able to do this, rewire your subconscious, release your old self very, very soon. More to come, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of a hint there. So I hope this episode was so helpful to give you some clarity of how to release these old limiting beliefs by starting off by figuring out what the heck those limiting beliefs are so you can release them and move forward and easily and effortlessly step into your dream body and life. All while feeling freaking amazing and radiating confidence and being so magnetic and manifesting all of your desires while feeling freaking amazing in your own skin, okay? Thank you guys so much for joining me. Freaking love you so much. Thank you so much for being here, and I can't wait to catch you on the next episode.